Hello, everybody. We are live. Thank you so much for joining this virtual author story time. I'm so excited because not only is it an opportunity for us to learn more about our guest author, but also for you to hear some from the book. And so, before we get started, as always, I love to just introduce who we are and what we're doing here at Burst Into Books. So, I am Jarima Gorham. I am the founder and executive director of Burst Into Books. Burst Into Books is a nonprofit here on the South Side of Chicago, which is really focused on how to continue to just remix the narrative. How are we able to continue to build our community when it comes around literacy and introducing families to local authors? And so tonight, we are going to do a virtual story time with a local author where she will be able to not only share about her book, be able to share about just what drew her into doing her work. And so after we do the interview, she will then have an opportunity to just read and do a live reading. And so we always love to start with backgrounds because I believe our backgrounds is what leads us to become authors in the first place. So Sherrie, I'm gonna give you the floor to first say thank you for being with us tonight, and secondly, if you could just share a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you for first of all having me on, and I really appreciate this opportunity. And just a little background about myself: I am from born and raised Chicago, Illinois, on the West Side, and so just a girl who, like I said, was born on the West Side, two-parent household, went to a Catholic school, but you know, did that. I went to UIC, graduated, and pretty much from there have been in social services, worked in nonprofit, currently work in nonprofit now, and have always loved to read, write, and I got the passion for reading, in particular from my dad. He loved to read, and I remember this is a long time ago, back in the day when you used to go to the library and you used to actually have to pick up a book.
Some families still do. They still do that.
Okay,
Some of them do.
right. So yeah, I that's where I come from, and so thankful to be here. What and I may be kind of jumping ahead, so you can stop me if I am. But what basically inspired the book itself? So I had gotten married May 2021, and unfortunately, that didn't work out. It kind of ended as fast as it started. And when you're going through a healing process, you need an outlet. And
Mhm.
so for me, writing became that outlet, and it was a way for me to express myself and just to kind of get out of my own head. And so that's very much where the inspiration for writing came from. I mean, like I said, I've always loved to read and write,
Mhm.
but it wasn't until I think I really went through that I was like, okay, let me really put pen to paper and really kind of get my ideas out there, and that's exactly what I did. So
I love it.
bring 'em
So
up.
you didn't jump ahead at all. I wanted to just kind of share why I love that you shared that piece because a lot of times when people are thinking about whether or not they are an author, it's really about sharing your story, right? And I think we all have a story, we all have experiences that someone can connect to. Even as you're sharing, our audience primarily, we do a lot of services for children and their families and things of that nature. But we also work with parents, right? And so parents go through things. Parents are experiencing life and they're able to, and sometimes we don't have an outlet, right? So there are parents and there's adults that's on here. There's parents and adults that are going through life and they don't have an outlet, right? A lot of times when we are going through things, we don't necessarily know like where could we turn to. And so I agree. I believe reading is therapy. Reading is healing. And as much as we promote literacy for children, I think for adults, we need to be able to look at writing and reading as a way for us to heal ourselves as well. So I love
Definitely.
that piece. So you were going through this like drastic change in your life. And so what was like your writing process? Because I don't know, did it start off as just like a journal? And then as you were writing, were you like, okay, no, I think this is a book? Like, how did you have it go from this, healing? thing into now becoming a published book? Like, what was your process?
Um, right. So that's really interesting. I was at work one day, and not my current job, but where I worked previously, and I was just sitting in my cubicle, and just I was really inspired. It just the idea came to me. It
Mm.
came to me to just jot down the outline for the initial, for the book itself. And I'm sitting there, and when you get inspired, you have to just write it that second. I mean, my first thought was, okay, let me just wait till I get home. And my mom was like, no, 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 you need to write this down right now. So at that point, I was able to write out the outline, the characters that I wanted to use for the book. And so then I said to myself, well, I don't even have a title for the book. And so that came to me. I mean, all this was in the span of one day. It really was.
Oh
And
wow.
so, but prior to that, I had been thinking about I wanted to write a book. So it wasn't like this was something brand new. I felt like it was something that I wanted to do, and I had a completely different idea and concept of what I wanted to write, and it wasn't flowing for whatever reason, you know. And so when I was inspired and it came to me, then it just started flowing. It just started flowing. And at that point, I got in contact with the publicist and, just started the whole journey. And so she took me through. Her name is, if I can mention her name, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I want to shout out Miss Anisha Sharp Publishing Company,
Awesome.
and she's a African American author herself as well and minister. And I just want to shout her out because when I came to her with the idea, sometimes when you talk to people and you feel like, oh my God, are they gonna understand where I'm coming from day one? She was like, okay, let's go. Do you feel confident about this idea? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And she was like, okay, let's go. And so from that was my journey. I had the outline written out, and then she just helped guide me along the way, each and every step of the way. And would kind of say, hey, add this, take this away. And so it was literally a journey, like I said, once again, of healing. But it was a journey of really, because I use the Bible, my story, and I know we'll talk about that a
Yeah.
little bit more as well. But I use the Bible, and so for me, I had to actually then go deep into the Bible. Like I had to actually read about these particular characters that I write about, and so for me, that was a healing process as well. Like that was part of my healing process. My faith is very much a part of me, and so yeah.
I love it. So how did you find her? Like, how did you find about her company or her support with
That
authors?
Yeah, that's funny as well because like I said, I'm a reader, and so I had actually gotten a book from Bishop Greg Davis. I had purchased one of his books, and
Okay.
I don't know why, I just thought to say, hey, let me look in the front of the book. It was really random, and I looked down and I saw that she had published his book.
Hmm.
And I looked her up, and so that particular weekend, I think it was the next weekend actually, she was having a workshop for anyone who wanted to write a book, or just wanted to learn the process or whatever like that. And all this was going on at the same time, mind you. And so I said, okay, I'll take a chance and just do it, right? Like whatever, not thinking much about it. And I did it, signed up with her, and we just went from there.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the reason I wanted to share is because along with this platform, I try to really allow people to understand that everyone has their own journey on how they become an author, right? And so some are traditionally published, they might go through an agent and go through that whole route, but then others are self-published. But even hearing about amazing like black owned, small owned publishing companies and people who are helping people to go forth. I think, like you said, sometimes you're like, I just got an idea. I don't know how to make it come to life. And so it's important to know that there are people out here that can support you and guide you through the process and allow you to be able to get your story out the way that you want it to be heard, right? And so
Definitely.
as you're doing your writing process and you're healing and you're writing, I know that one of the main draws to a book, as you are a reader like myself, is the book cover and the
Mhm.
title, right? Like those things matter. So a lot of times that's like the intro, right? Get us to be, is this something I want to read further? So what helped you to land on the title and what you wanted the cover of the book to look like?
Well, that's interesting because, like I said, originally I didn't have a title for the book. And then it kind of came to me, like I said, that same day that I got inspired to write the outline. And so Beauty for Ashes, I was like, that comes from somewhere, right? I'm
Mm,
steady, thinking it to myself, and it comes out the Bible. So I don't know if you can see my shirt, but it's from Isaiah 61:3.
mm,
Isaiah chapter 61, verse 3. And so I won't give the scripture, but that's where it comes from itself. And so that is part of my journey. How God will take you from a situation where it looks rough and it looks like you're not going to make it through, and then you come from that to the other side. And so that's been my story. That's still what I'm going through. I'm going through from that place of rejection, abandonment, and still healing, and to make it to the other side where now I'm an author,
mm.
able to start walking in and through my purpose. So
I love.
the cover itself, so I worked with an editor. I worked with the graphic designer, Paula McDash. She has her own company, and Dr. Joy Thomas, who's the editor. So I worked with both of them, and I just basically came to Paula, who's, like I said, the graphic designer, and I said, "Hey, this is my book. This is what it's about." And she was like, "I got you." And I'm like, "What?
Mm.
No." And she was like, "No, I got you. Like, I hear what you're saying." And she just took it and she ran with it, and I loved it, and that's it.
I love it. And so, can you hold up the book so we can
Uh,
see the?
okay, this is like the original copy I had, so it doesn't have this if you purchase it, but this is
Got you.
pretty much it. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay,
Okay.
awesome. And so, at this time, as we've heard the backstory and learned more about like what inspired this book, we're going to have an opportunity for Sherrie to read some parts from her book, so you're able to see like how she was able to flow and use this to be able to be a way that she got her story out. After the live reading, we'll come back and we'll answer a couple more questions. So at this time, we will have a live reading from Sherrie.
Okay. So everyone, this is from my book. This is actually chapter 1, and I talk about different characters in the Bible. And so the first character I talk about, of course, is Eve, who started it all. So here we go. So First Corinthians, I start off with actually a scripture. First Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. Well, we've all heard the expression, it's her fault. She made me do it. This is a phrase often said in our society by men when they want to blame their spouse or significant other for a mistake in which they made. A long, long time ago, when God created the earth, we meet in the book of Genesis the first man ever created named Adam. He was created in the image of God himself. After God saw that this man had no human in which to talk to or share any experiences with, because animals were not suitable companionship for man, God put man into a deep sleep and extracted from his rib Eve, the first woman to be his helpmeet. When Eve was presented to Adam, he said, "This is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." This is the beginning of the very first love story. After this, God had given instruction to Adam and Eve not to eat from the tree of good and evil, and the day they eat of it, their eternal souls will surely die. However, the serpent approached Eve and persuaded her that she could eat from the very tree God had forbidden, and her husband entrusted her judgment and also ate from the tree himself. Immediately thereafter, they both knew they were naked and hid from God. Here is where the first couple began to experience heartache, in which they felt a separation from God like they never felt before. God said, "I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over thee." As a result, God drove out the man and woman, placing a cherubim at the gate to guard the entranceway forever. The despair this couple must have felt was unimaginable. To have been in the very presence of God daily, and to then allow an outside entity to rob them of their eternal fellowship with God, created out of disobedience, was the fall of mankind. It would take Jesus Christ to one day come to redeem us by shedding his blood for all of us. Think about it. Did these two regret their choice? Did they learn from their mistakes as a couple? In our modern day, as a woman of faith, Eve allowed the voice of a stranger to cloud her judgment when she had been instructed by God the rightful direction to go. When Eve listened to an outside voice instead of trusting her husband's voice, she was not thinking in partnership, but instead acted independently in making the choice she made at the time. And she allowed her destiny to be derailed. As a believer and woman of faith, our takeaway from this story and couple should be: make sure God is the threefold chord in the center of your relationship, and his voice should be the only one you listen to as a couple. This threefold cord consists of God in the inner circle, with the husband and the wife that completes the outer circle. Oftentimes, we allow our family and friends to dictate and speak negatively against our spouse or partner.
Oh wow. So the erupt pause. I was like, okay, what else you about to say?
I won't give the rest of the chapter away.
Right, don't give it away. Don't give it
You got
away.
to
Well,
purchase it to see, hear the rest of it. But,
yeah, well, I love it. So I love the fact that
mhm.
you, like you say, you start each chapter. So if you are just joining us, we are here with Sherrie Robinson, and she's talking about her book. As you all know, we use this platform to be able to get as many different books into your home library. So I'm really big about just being able to share our platform for that. She is talking about her book and how she was able to use it as a source of healing for herself. So she's able to do it for others. And so she just read a snippet from the book. And so let me ask this. So as you're going through the different chapters, are you highlighting different relationships that were in the Bible, or is it just in general, just like different things that you wanted to just address when it comes to? Is the whole book? I guess my question is: it a book about relationships, or is it more so about like principles that keep people together? If that makes sense.
Actually both, to be honest. So I actually look at seven couples in the Bible. I go from the Old Testament to the New Testament. So I start off with Adam and Eve rather, and I end with Mary and Joseph.
Got
And
you.
so I give you in the middle, all these different couples, and I talk about their love story, their journey. But along the way of that, I'm also talking to you in comparison of if they were in our time, right? As a modern day woman and man, how do we interpret their story? How do we see their story? And yeah, I do talk about as far as like some principles and some things that I hope you would be able to learn from their story.
I love it. And so as you were writing this book, I always love to ask. So you did. So now you got under your belt. You're an author. Like that's just it. Just is what it is. So what's next? Do you foresee this being a series, or this more so just like this is the one thing I want to tackle here, and then I'm gonna move on to something else? Or do you feel like this is where you end?
So I definitely don't think this is where I am. I definitely think I have more in me. I have started number two,
Okay.
which it is not a series, so it's a different subject altogether. So wherever the Lord leads me, I mean, podcasts, webinar, whatever it may be, I'm open, but definitely not the end, not the end at all.
I love it. So let me say this. I think that one, this is awesome that you not only had the idea, you put the legwork behind it, and now it's published. There's so many people, including myself, who are like, this year I'm gonna be an author, and it
Yeah,
hasn't happened yet. But I am excited when I meet you and other individuals that are
thank
really
you,
like telling stories that need to be told. So I want to say that. So
thank
that's a
you.
big feat, and I understand it's hard. It's not easy. And so if you are listening and you hear her story and what she's writing about, support, support, support.
Thank
Definitely,
you.
when you are a self-published author, you are the marketer, you are the
Mhm.
promoter, you are the one getting it out there. And so if you hear this story and it's something that resonates with you, or you know someone, because I think the thing that is so common, me and my close friends talk about this all the time, we all are going to experience loss,
Right, right.
loss in various forms. And I think that ultimately we're able to, I think sometimes we can prepare for it and sometimes we don't, but it's helpful to have tools or people that you can talk to during those times. And so this seems like a tool that someone could be able to use as they're going through a place of healing. So as
Definitely.
we are continuing this conversation, um, March is Women's History Month.
Mhm.
And so when I think about our interviews, we always like to connect to what currently is what's being said. And you already talked about a few people as you talked about your journey being an author. But I would love for you to speak to who is a woman who
Mhm.
impacted your life.
Well, I have a lot of women who have impacted my life. In particular, my mom.
Hmm.
And I will say her only because she is my mom, but not only that, just because she's always encouraged me to do better than her. That's how she'll say it.
Mhm.
Like she always has encouraged me to go further than what she was able to go.
Mm.
And that's as far as like education, as far as just everything in my life. And so that has always been the fuel that has kind of, had me going to say, okay, well, I know that I have both my parents, well, my dad is deceased, but I've always had them in my corner to say, keep going, keep like that little engine that. And
Mhm.
so she is definitely the number one woman in my life who has impacted me.
I love it. I love it. So, I want to share that this is an opportunity for those who are maybe later watching this. They can learn more about what your work is. And if you're currently watching this, I see some people sharing hearts. Thank you for tuning in. How can people stay connected to you? How can they purchase your book? What do you have going on next? What is it, some ways that people can stay connected to the work that you're doing?
Sure. So I am available through Facebook. My name, what is Sherri Robinson. Also, I am on Instagram. I'm Sherry Sherri dot Robinson dot 775. And then my book is on Amazon, so you can purchase my book anytime on Amazon. And then lastly, I guess what I'm working on next, I have a few things in the pipeline that I'm working on. Hopefully to be aired on a podcast is my next thing that I'm working on in the near future.
Love it. I love it. I love it. So, as you all heard, these are the ways that you can stay connected. I truly do love what your work is about. I definitely want
Mhm.
to invite you. We have our literary festival that we host in July. And so I would love, I'll make sure I send you information because I think that
Thank
it's
you.
so important for us to have spaces where you're able to share your work and people can be able to meet you in person. But
Okay.
as you heard, that is how you can follow Sherry on all the different platforms to purchase the book. Would you like to, because of the personal spaces your book comes from, are there any closing thoughts that you may want to share in regards to this book? Like, who would you say this book is written for?
Um, that's really good question. So I would say that actually the book is written for those man and woman
Mm-hmm.
who have experienced heartache, who may be going through a healing process, but also is for married couples, right? Because a lot of the couples that I talk about in the book, majority of them are married, well, were married rather. So it's not just for singles; it's for those who are widowed, those who are married. And I mean, I think that my takeaway from the book is that I just want you to continue to have a renewed inspiration and love. Like even though things happen, and even for myself, even though it didn't work out the way I intended it to, because nobody gets married to then it not work out. And you figure, okay, now I got to get a divorce or norm and whatever the case may be. So nobody gets married for that to happen. So that in and of itself is devastating, but I still was able to find hope in love. And I'm very much, like I know it's going to happen for me and it's going to be the real deal this time around. So, yeah, that's what I would want people to know as well.
I love it. I think that, look, you talking to me too. Let me stop. Like, because I think at the end of the day, I
Yeah.
mean, relationships, period. In this particular, we're talking about romantic, but I think even in friendships, right? Even
Hmm.
in our careers, like things don't always happen the way we thought they were going to happen, right?
Hmm.
Um, Life has a funny way of having curveballs that we didn't expect. But I think to your point, which I'm a strong believer in, is that everything happens for a reason. And there are lessons and all these different things. And so I truly hope that this book can be an inspiration to those who read it to understand that the trials that we go through are nothing new under the sun. And
That's true.
secondly, that it's so important that we understand that there is always a blessing and lesson behind these things. And so, thank you for sharing your story. What we will do is when we are posting this in our on our YouTube and when it's on our other platforms, we will also include in the content where people can go directly to buy the book and be able to follow you and purchase. But then also, this will be available for re-recording. So if you are watching this live, thank you for watching with us live. If you're
Thank
watching it
you.
later, do know that you can put comments in the chat. And if there's anything that you have a question for Sherrie, we will pass it along. But thank
Okay.
you so much for your time. I'm glad
Thank
that
you.
we connected. I'm sure
Finally.
I know, right? I'm sure we're gonna meet in person. It's gonna work out.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you so much for being obedient and writing your story.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity and the work that you're doing with the youth and everything. I just want to tell you to continue to be encouraged and just keep fighting the good fight. And thank you.
Thank you. We got it, girl. We got it. So thank you all. Have a great evening. Until next time. Take care.